Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there, this is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. In our long search for content, we're about to do what? Part 2 of our analysis of the greatest job in the NFL?
Oh my goodness, I'm telling you. And again, had I known then when my son was playing high school football, what I know now, and the coach was saying to him, I want you to play quarterback. And he was like, I want to play running back. I'd have popped him upside his head. You better get back there and throw that ball, man. Don't you know? What's at the next level? Okay, Benny, so the main portion of today's show, we're going to do the second in our series of the best job in the NFL, backup quarterback. Now, you notice I added backup quarterback because when on our social media, I posted at one point, best job in the NFL. Then I had people trying to guess what it was.
Oh,
okay. It became obvious they didn't look at the video.
right.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's not that. And I was like, let me just add this on there so that people will know we are talking about backup quarterbacks. And again, the reason, two things, couple. Number one, it's a job. I look at the difference between it's like you can have a job or you can have a career. You know what I mean?
Right.
So backup quarterback is the job. Starting quarterback's the career. So this week I added a little bit more information about what the starting quarterbacks are getting paid, just for contrast. You know what I mean? But the number one, these guys are getting paid, and they're getting paid for long periods of time, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 plus years as backup quarterbacks. And as we saw last week, a number of the backup quarterbacks in the AFC East were former starters.
Right.
And in the case of, for example, the Jets with Joe Flacco, a former starter who made a ton of money. So you got a backup there with a Super Bowl ring, who had a contract worth somewhere in the area, I think 180 million, somewhere up in that stratosphere of earnings, where a lot of these guys as backup quarterbacks are generally making close to $1 million. But $1 million per year for 3, 4, 5, 10 years is a nice job if you can get it. You know what I mean? So I'm sure, for example, you were talking about in the previous session, Kyle Lauletta. Now, he made over $1 million with your Giants in the time that he was there. But if he had even been able to hang for another 3, 4 years at that rate, he'd be well ahead of the curve there in terms of making money. So right. Let's take a look at our quarterbacks who we're going to start out with. The first team, and we're going to do the NFC East this week. And we're going to start out with the Washington Commanders. I know you're going to hate me saying that all season long, aren't you?
I hate that. If you're going to say it like that, I am.
Back up, Taylor Heineke. You like Taylor Heineke, don't you?
I thought Taylor Heineke was a decent quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought, However, Taylor Heineke apparently has a bit of a problem throwing picks. He's actually going to be backing up Carson Wentz, who kind of, we thought, had his own challenge with throwing picks. Carson Wentz contract value is $128 million. I should do it like, what was the thing where the guy with the criminal, he's like $128 million. 57 interceptions to 140 touchdowns, which is really not a bad ratio of touchdown to interceptions. And I know last year he had probably his best year in terms of efficiency, not throwing those picks. He didn't come up big in the big times when they needed him. His injury probability, according to one of the websites, however, is pretty high. So, it's 87%. So Carson Wentz has had a number of injuries in this time period. And so there's some questions about him relative to his ability to stay on the field. He's already earned over $100 million. He's averaging on a per year basis $16.7 million. So there's your starter for the Washington Commanders. Anything before we move?
No, I have nothing to say about him. I want to talk about the backup.
The backup, Taylor Heineke, contract value $4.750,000. His interception to touchdown ratio, however, 18 interceptions to 22 touchdowns. That's where the challenge is. He's got a low injury probability, only 16%. And his career earnings a bit over $5 million. He's made on average about $863,000 a year. Came out as an undrafted free agent at he's now 29 years old. He has 4 seasons in the NFL. Again, came out of Old Dominion and was an undrafted free agent in 2015 with Vikings. That's interesting. So, what do you have to say about Taylor Heineke?
I'd say Taylor Heineke has done not so badly considering he came into the NFL as an undrafted free agent, found himself on the Washington football team back when they had a name that we stopped using a long time ago before they became the Commanders. However, it didn't take Washington long to figure out that they wanted to attempt to do better than Taylor Heineke. They brought in Fitzmagic and a couple other people. But when injuries occurred to him, then Heineke got an opportunity to actually start. He won some games, but of course, it was nothing to brag about. And like you said, his touchdown to interception ratio is not really great. So again, they're still in search of their real starting quarterback. However, he's got enough experience to be a vital and relatively trusted backup on this particular team. He's been on the team long enough, knows the system, knows the coaches, knows the players. You know what I mean? Can take over a game if in fact Mr. Wentz gets injured, which, as you said, there's a high probability of that. So they could do worse as a backup.
6'1", a little on that shorter side. That 6'1" quarterback needs to be very mobile, needs to be able to throw on a run so he can find his passing lanes and things of that nature. So kind of a small similarity maybe between the styles of him and Wentz, the mobile situation. What do you think?
Mobile situation?
Yeah.
Heineke's a little more mobile.
More mobile than Wentz?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
I wouldn't have thought that.
With confidence. Wentz is mobile without confidence.
Without confidence.
Almost every single injury Wentz has had has been on the move.
Okay. That's it. Yeah. And I remember the first one, he was diving into the end zone, when he hurt his knee. So you're right about that. Okay. Next up, we're gonna talk about the Eagles. Their backup quarterback, one Mr. Minshew. I think Minshew kind of reminds me of Taylor Heineke. I mean, 2 guys that nobody's claiming has super talent, but lots of moxie. And the one thing you can say about Minshew is moxie. And I kept thinking last year when he came in for Hurts and played, I thought, better football, to be quite honest with you, in terms of he was finding receivers, he was finding that tight end. And I mean, he played some really good football in the time that he had. I thought there might be a bit of a quarterback controversy. Didn't really happen, though. So he's still hanging in there with with the Eagles.
I'll give the Eagles coaching staff credit for not letting that develop into a controversy. They, in fact, organizationally have already decided or had already decided that Jalen Hurts is going to be their quarterback of the future. Obviously, they're depending on him. They're giving him every opportunity this upcoming season to prove that he can be that guy. They're bringing in weapons for him. I don't think Minshew ever really had a chance to overthrow him as the starting quarterback. However, the great thing about Minshew being a backup is that he actually was a starting quarterback and not out of necessity. He was actually given the opportunity to be the starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars and just couldn't quite get it done, to the point where that organization felt like they could do better through the draft. And in fact, looks like they did, getting Trevor Lawrence. But you couldn't have a better backup. Again, a guy who's been a starter, who started several games, who's got wins under his belt. I don't know what his injury probability or his touchdown to interception ratio is, but I would say, as he already proved last season, if something happens to Jalen Hurts, Minshew can step in and get the job done.
Well, we're looking here at Jalen Hurts, contract value $6 million. So very much unlike the situation with the Commanders, where you have a highly paid starting quarterback, who's guy made
still on his rookie contract.
Yeah, he's still on his rookie contract, making $1.5 million on the average per year. Now, Jalen Hurts' touchdown to interception ratio is not great, 13 interceptions to 22 touchdowns. But he's got a very low injury probability, very mobile, very strong, made over $3 million so far in his career. And now Minshew is here. Now, Minshew has a contract at $2.7 million. He's averaging about $677,000 a year. His touchdown to interception ratio is very much better overall than Hurts, at 12 interceptions to 41 touchdowns. Couldn't find his injury probability, but let's assume since he's on the bench, he's it's a low probability. But I don't remember. He did get hurt a couple times when he was down in Jacksonville, didn't he?
He got banged up. Everybody gets banged up.
Yeah. He's made $2.2 million over his year, averaging $737,000 a year at age 26. He's a free agent. He has 3 seasons under his belt. 6'2", again, on the shorter side. And I say shorter when you're looking. Let's look at your boy Josh Allen with the Bills as prototypical. What's Josh, 6'5"?
Yeah, Josh 6'5".
Yeah, 6'5". So here's 6'2", 220, coming out of Washington State, drafted in the 6th round, number 178 overall by the Jaguars. So he did actually get picked up during the draft. So not a bad job if you can get it with over $2 million in career earnings after being picked up in 2019. So that's what, 3 years or so?
Well, I mean, let's face it. When you look at the teams in respect to who their backup quarterbacks are, the Eagles are in pretty good shape. We got a guy with 3 years of experience, plenty of starting experience on a team that wasn't very good and didn't have a whole heck of a lot of talent, who played basically pretty well and only became free because the team found themselves in a position to get the number 1 pick overall and fell in love with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah.
You're not going to find many teams that have a guy like Gardner Minshew as a backup. The Eagles are very lucky.
Well, the next backup quarterback, I think you might be saying somewhat of the same thing. Okay, there's your New York Giants backup quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, signing his contract, getting that money. Now, Tyrod has the longest tenure He's been around the longest of any of the guys that we've talked about up to this particular point. All right, he's going to be backing up Daniel Jones, or as you sometimes call him, Danny Dimes. Contract value, $25.6 million, making about $6.4 million per year. This touchdown to interception ratio is better than I thought, Benny. 11 interceptions to 45 touchdowns. However, he's got a 79% injury probability.
He's had a lot of bad luck, man. He's had some real bad luck injuries, yes.
Really, really. All right, we'll have to find that record bad luck and play it for him every time he steps on the field. But career earnings of 21.9 million, averaging 7.3 per year. So even when he's having bad luck, he's having good luck, as far as I'm concerned. But that, like you said, that bad luck is relative to injury.
That 25 million, that's his current contract?
I do believe. Let me go back.
Okay. So he's being paid like a starter.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's a starter. He's a starter. And apparently your Giants are invested. So they bring in Tyrod Taylor, give him an $11 million contract. That's pretty hefty for a backup quarterback. He's averaging 5.5 million per year. He's got 25 interceptions to 59 touchdowns. So a little high. I actually heard, it was funny. I'm playing Madden. Charles Davis says that the best touch, what you're looking for is a 3-to-1 in terms of touchdown to interceptions. So he threw that out in the game, and I'm like, okay, let me make sure, let me see what's going on here. So this is a little high. This is, 25 to 50 would be, 50%, not 3-to-1, not 33%. So it's a little on the high side. His injury probability at 55%. And right in the middle there, he's had some injuries. As long as they keep a needle away from his chest, he might be okay.
Yeah.
Career earnings 64.4 rounded up to $5 million, averaging 5.8 million. Now, see, if you're going to be a backup, that's what that's the kind of money you really want.
He's right, but this guy deserves it because he's been around.
He's been around. He's been a starter.
He's got longevity. He's been a starter. He's backed up some young guys and kind of helped bring them along. He's come in emergency situations. He's won games. So he deserves that. And when I said Daniel Jones is being paid like a starter, what I meant to say was he's being paid like a veteran starter, 25 million. I forgot he's already done with his rookie deal. He's on his second deal already. So he's being paid well, and hopefully he shows that he can earn that money. But Tyrod Taylor being his backup is a pretty good deal for the Giants. Here's a guy that's proven it over and over and over again that he can step in an emergency situation or become the de facto starter for a number of games if, in fact, your starter goes down. And he's being paid accordingly, $11 million. That's not bad. A lot better than a lot of these other guys are getting.
Yeah.
Very versatile player, still has arm strength, still can move. Has been on several teams. Has been through several different scenarios as far as philosophies and systems are concerned. So Tyrod Taylor obviously is a pretty fast learner also and can adapt to pretty much any situation. So that's the kind of guy you want for your backup.
No doubt, no doubt. Height is another question again. Here we are again at 6'1" on the shorter side. And Danny Dimes is what, 6'4", I believe?
He's at least 6'4", maybe 6'5".
Yeah, somewhere in that area. 6th round draft pick. That's not bad. You get picked in the 6th round and you make over $11 million in your career. That ain't a bad NFL career,
No, it's made $64 million.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the Giant contract, $11 million.
It's still pulling down 11 as a backup.
Right. $64 million in your career. Wow. That's not bad for a 6th round draft pick for the Ravens. They picked them up. So thanks to Ravens. for Tyrod Taylor. Okay. So we've done the Commanders, we've done the Giants. Next up is the Cowboys. Cooper Rush is the backup for the Cowboys. Now, Cooper Rush, all right, Cooper Rush is backing up one Dakota Prescott. Contract value $160 million, averaging about $40 million a year. So there's that reference point you were talking about with Danny Dimes at $25 million.
Right.
Dak Prescott at $40 million. 50 interceptions to 143 touchdowns. That's about 3-1. 150 touchdowns would have been exactly 3-1. So just a little bit on the higher side of that, with only an 8% injury probability. I'm really surprised, And it's funny because you remember we were talking about the Cowboys who mentioned that they might be running Dak Prescott a little bit more in the upcoming season. So that injury probability might change. So far, he's earned $110 million. That's because he had a lot of guaranteed money in that contract. So now he's going to be backed up by a guy making $1.9 million, about $977,000 per year, who's got the perfect 3-to-1 ratio. 1 interception to 3 touchdowns in his time. He's made $2.9 million, averaging $586,000 a year. Again, backup quarterback, best job in the NFL. He's got 4 seasons under his belt, a little bit taller than the other backups at 6'3", and he was an undrafted free agent coming out in 2017 for the Cowboys. So we watched a little bit of Cooper Rush last year, didn't we?
Yeah, we got to see a little bit of Cooper Rush. First of all, the good things about Cooper Rush. Number one, he was selected as an undrafted free agent by the Cowboys. He's only been on the Cowboys, so he knows the Cowboys system. Okay, great.
Good point.
However, this guy has never been an actual starter. I believe he may have started a game or two. I forget what Dak's injury situation was last year. He's most of his playing time is taking place in preseason games. He does not have a lot of real game experience. If you want to look at all of the NFC East teams and their backup quarterback situations, this one's probably the weakest. Cooper Rush just doesn't have the playing experience to be really dependent on. And when you ask the question, there's a lot of questions you can ask about the competency of a team's backup. One of the questions you used last week was, if this team's on a playoff run and looks like they could be a Super Bowl contender and the starter goes down, can the backup possibly get them there? In this situation, I would say no. In the other situations, I would say a strong maybe. Not that I believe that the Giants, Commanders, or Eagles will make a Super Bowl run, but I'm saying if in fact they were able to get going, their backups would be a bit more competent. Cooper Rush, nah. The best they can hope for from Cooper Rush is if Dak gets an ankle sprain, he can hand the ball off to Emmett and finish a game. Emmett. I said Emmett. Oh,
you sure did. Oh my goodness. You sure did.
I was watching some videos, man. I was watching old videos today.
Okay.
But yeah, Cooper Rush is not a guy you want to have to depend on for a long period of time.
Well, so Ben, Cooper Rush, Gardner Minshew, Taylor Heineke, and Tyrod Taylor. You got to choose one for your backup quarterback. Who you going with?
Although I believe Gardner Minshew is up there and fits the Eagles well, I would have to say, not being biased either, I'd have to say Tyrod Taylor.
Sticking with Tyrod, eh?
We'll go with Tyrod.
Sticking with Tyrod.
I think Tyrod Taylor, still getting up in age, can still do everything that Danny Jones can do.
So why did he not make it with the Texans, and they wound up bringing in their draftee, the gentleman, young man they drafted?
Because they knew that he wasn't going to be their starter going forward. Everybody's always looking for the quarterback of the future. The Texans felt like they should go ahead and go for it now, even though we know that the 2023 draft is going to be pretty full with a lot better quarterbacks. They went ahead and took the guy that they took. And who knows? He could be the guy, but they're going to give him an opportunity. And if he doesn't prove that he can do it, they'll go again. These teams that are down in the dumps and don't really look like they have the talent to really make the playoffs or have a good season, they have the luxury. I hate to use the word tank in football, but they have the luxury to just kind of wallow, you know what I mean? And stack first round picks and keep shooting until they come up with somebody.
Well, that's an interesting group coming out of the NFC East. If you're looking at the quality of the starters versus, those four teams, would you say Dak is probably the best quarterback?
I would say Dak is the best starting quarterback in the NFC East with the weakest backup.
Strongest starter with the weakest backup.
How crazy is that, right?
Good thing he has a low probability of injury, Yeah. We'll see if the Cowboys screw that up.
Well, he's only had that one serious injury. This talk of him running more, I don't know. It might be a bit of a smoke screen. I mean, just because a guy gets an injury doesn't mean you put bubble wrap around him. You know what I mean? Dak is
$140 million. You might want to put some bubble wrap around.
Dak's actually a good runner when he gets going. He's fairly elusive. He's fairly elusive, and he knows how to slide.
Absolutely.
You don't want to take that part of his game away from him if, in fact, he can still do it. Wentz, here for an example, Wentz never showed the ability to really slide well. His decision-making on when to slide was horrible, and he always stuck his neck out and dove and tried to break tackles and things trying to be a hero when he didn't have to. That's why he got hurt so much.
Okay. All right.
Dak's smarter.
Dak is smarter. All right. So, well, that's the NFC East. Interesting group of backup quarterbacks there. Some guys made some decent money, all of them being backups. Greatest job in the NFL. Mamas, daddies, teach your son to be a backup quarterback in the NFL. Isn't there a country like that?
Remember who Dallas Cowboys backup used to be? Back to, I want to say maybe, did Dak take over for Romo?
I do believe.
Okay, I think this guy might have went back to the end of Romo and the early part of Dak. Their backup was Kellen Moore.
Right.
Kellen Moore made a good amount of money, probably never started a game, and is now their offensive coordinator.
Interesting that you say that, because one of our former classmates posted something, and I said I was going to use this. Our friend Ron Diggs, an NFL water boy, makes an average salary of $53,000 a year.
Really? Are you serious?
I might need to rethink the
greatest job in the NFL.
I might need to rethink it.
Holy smokes.
53,000 per year. Oh my goodness. So yeah, you gotta love it. You gotta love it, man. All right, man.
I found Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore played for the Detroit Lions from 2012 to 2014 and the Dallas Cowboys from 2015 to 2017. I don't know how many games he started, but it wasn't many. He is now the offensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, which is another reason why backup quarterback is a great job, because that's the position where you can probably, if you want to, ascend to a quarterback coach / offensive coordinator.
That's
Absolutely.
That's an interesting piece of information when you think about it, because you know, they always, I've heard it said that the guys with the most talent don't make great coaches.
No.
Now Deion Sanders is trying to change that a little bit.
Oh,
but
it's not 100%. It's not 100%.
Not 100%.
But for the most part, star players don't make good coaches.
Yeah, I've heard that. So, you know. All right, Benny. Well, I think that is an interesting wrap up for the NFC East. If you were going to find your backup quarterback, you would probably jump back to the AFC East. Say, give me one of them guys. But all of these guys, again, starters. Many of these guys are starters. Many of these guys have some history, and you know they still got some juice left. And that last part you brought about, where you're getting an opportunity to be a coach because you played backup quarterback, extend your NFL career. We didn't even include
right.
That.
That's another plus.
That's another plus of, you know, an income, you know, for I don't know how many more years once you get a coaching job. So absolutely, that's fantastic. All right, best job in the NFL, where we looked at the AFC East. Go to Ben & Barry on Football on Facebook, and you'll be able to find that there. All right.